So let's get started. I'm Starr Parodi. For any of you that don't know me, I'm the president of the Alliance, the current president, and also composer. And it is my great pleasure to have a conversation with Lolita Ritmanis today. Lolita is one of the founders of the Alliance, and she was the president for 2 years before me and did incredible work amplifying the work of all women composers, and as well as somehow she's kind of a superwoman because she's also somehow was able to work on her series and work on her films and all the stuff that she was doing in addition to being president. So I want to also say, just for people that don't know her, that she is a 10-time Emmy nominee and an Emmy winner. And she is now working, she now has the Blizzard of Souls out, and it has just received a Hollywood Music and Media Award win an award. And she's got a SCL nomination, and she has an Alex North Award for this. And this film is on the shortlist for the Oscars, which is really, really exciting. So we're here to talk about the film, Blizzard of Souls, and Lolita's music today. So welcome, Lolita.
Thank you so much. It's such a joy to be here with my people. It's just like it's family. Even though I don't know some of you, I feel like we are all in this together to raise each other up, and the fact that you're celebrating me today is just a real honor. So thank you for doing this.
Well, there's so much to be celebrated. I watched the film a couple of nights ago, and it's staggering. The score is sweeping and beautiful and unexpected and so cinematic. And the palette that you had to work with, the actual film, the cinematography was also just breathtaking. The acting and the story so strong. And and it just really hit me emotionally. And so I have so many questions that I want to talk to you about. I just want to ask you first what it was like. I know you speak Latvian, and this film is from Latvia. What was it like scoring a film in another language, even though that is a language that you speak? Is it a different kind of experience than scoring something in English?
Not the fact that it is in Latvian, that was not different for me because es runāju latviski mājā katru dienu visu laiku. Anyway, I speak Latvian fluently. It was my first language. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. I was born in the United States, but at home we spoke Latvian. So I actually didn't even speak English. I spoke with very strong accent when I started first grade. My parents actually didn't even believe in kindergarten, so I entered first grade with an insanely debilitating accent, and quickly found solace in music, and eventually lost my accent, which I kind of wish I hadn't lost my accent, because I think that would make me a little bit more interesting to have an accent. But so scoring this film, there is such, because there's less than 2 million Latvians in Latvia, and several 100,000 outside of Latvia. We are such a small small group of people, and music and the arts are just such an integral part of our community. So we have, even during the Soviet era times, I mean, I'm 58 years old, proud to state my age. There's nothing wrong with my age. I've had a great career and having a wonderful career in the next chapter of my career. So I own who I am as a human being, and part of that is the fact that I have dual citizenship. I'm Latvian and a U.S. citizen. The culture of Latvia, the people, the music, everything is also very much part of my daily life. So this was really just kind of this unreal dream come true. The film is the biggest film, as far as the scope of the film, that has ever been made in Latvia, and it was made. It was the dream of This was Dzintars Dreibergs, the director's first narrative feature film. He'd done documentaries and some other work, but I mean, as you can imagine how hard it is to get funding for small independent films, and let alone to say, for the director to say, I'm gonna make a film version out of this beloved novel that was banned during Soviet times, and actually the author was actually killed after he wrote it. Several years afterwards, was killed, because it was, considered anti Soviet, etc. But anyway, I don't know. I kind of wandered off, but it's a passion of mine to be involved in my culture. And so this film, when it came about, first of all, I thought it was kind of a not an April Fool's joke, but when the director contacted me, it's like, oh, sure, I'll do your film. But it's like, right, how are they going to make this? And then when I actually got the call to, we're ready to actually start talking music, it's, oh my gosh, oh, okay, let's go, let's do this, And I had no qualms about, I didn't ask, what are you going to pay me? None of that. It was just, I have to do this film. I have to do this film. The book is so important. Half of the country is in the film. And so anyway, so it was just it was a slam dunk for me to just say yes and do it.
So, I mean, did the government support the film and support this filmmaker? Because it's just so unusual for a first-time filmmaker to make a film that's so broad in its scope.
Well, the interesting thing is the year before, there was actually many films made in Latvia when they were celebrating the 100 years, like 100-year anniversary of freedom. And at that point, this film actually, I don't know how much funding it got. It was a combination of getting funding from the government and also sponsors. So it's a different system in many parts of the world, where films just are not, you don't have these ginormous studios that can just churn out films. There's just not enough of a market. And people, I think now, because the world is so small, we as people of the universe, we are actually appreciating films from other countries, and the fact that international films are getting more into the mainstream of what we are all watching. I think that's opening the door for a lot more communication and a lot more interaction between people, and just wanting to watch a good film and hear a great score. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, I love the United States of America, and I love living in Los Angeles and being part of the kind of machinery that is here. Well, love is a strong word. I understand it, and I understand the game and the things that have to happen, and the things that sometimes happen and sometimes don't happen to get to where you can follow your dream. But there are other avenues, and I think for many of the composers that might be listening now, it's I would just say you should always follow your dream, even if you have the practicalities of what you have to do to earn a living in your day-to-day life. Don't lose sight of that dream, because there will be a time in your life where your dream and your soul actually intersect, and you can create something that will be lasting and that is deeply meaningful for you. And the process of even doing it is the biggest reward. And the accolades that come later are kind of like, they're truly the icing on the cake. And I don't mean to sound in any way ungrateful for the awards. I mean, it's kind of like I sit here and I think, what, I won that? How did that happen? I mean, I'm kind of more I've had more success in television and in animation, but there's never been a part of me that hasn't been the feature film composer that fell in love with Out of Africa by John Barry, and just died 1,000 deaths when the plane was taking off and the music soared, and it's like my hair is raising up on my arms. I have to do that. Or Dave Grusin's on Golden Pond, those first piano chords. It's like, this is what I'm going to do. So when try to connect what you want to do and what you feel your truest calling is, when you're at your very best, when you leave every drop of blood on the score page, and tears, and revision number 14 on a cue, and then the director is crying because he loves it, and you realize you've gone through all these weeds to get to this point, and then it gets recognition. Well, the recognition is kind of like, well, I had already the gift. I had the gift of this experience, and so it's fun. It's really an incredibly fun time right now.
So Amazing. You always inspire me, Lolita.
Oh, well,
Wait,
you inspire me.
well, I wanted to talk because we had such a great talk last night, and I wanted to ask you about your demo process for this. How did you create demos and mock-ups for the scenes? What was that like? And I know that you and I talked about how the demos sometimes were so convincing that you had to convince the director that you needed a symphonic orchestra, because you had a full symphonic orchestra and a choir on this. So could you speak a little about the demo process, revisions, and how it came, how everything came to then go to the orchestra and the choir?
Well, the first process was actually there was dialogue preliminarily about the fact that I would really very much like to work with the musicians in Latvia and the choir, but I didn't really. We hadn't. The director had no temp score. There was no temp on this film. I mean, that's kind of unheard of. It's also a little bit frightening for those of us who are used to temp scores. It's liberating, but it's also frightening. So that first dipping the toe into the water of, okay, I wonder if this will resonate with him. And we just knew each other from a very brief meeting, 5 years prior at a cafe, and then a few phone calls. So I made the decision. I, bought my own plane ticket to make sure to go there to spot. It's like I have to be there. I have to be there to sit there, to go through all the discomfort of getting to the comfort zone, if that makes any sense. Like to be where you're not performing, where you can just go, okay, and Zinthars could actually say what he's gravitating towards and whatnot. I had prepared a few demos, and the family theme, when the family burns their house and leaves their property, when they kind of have to flee, that was early on, it was approved. But the orchestration and the weight of the orchestra and which instrument groups he was seemingly more gravitating towards, we explored a lot of different options before committing to the actual orchestra. There was a concept that he wanted to use. First of all, we quickly decided that he did not gravitate towards an Americana war film approach. He did not that he doesn't like trumpets, but he didn't want to have the, kind of, Born on the 4th of July kind of trumpet calls in the background, which I mean, I love, so it's like, okay, I still need a couple trumpets at least for some of the big stuff, but they had a lot of rests. And I actually know Larry Wrench is logged on, so Larry will attest to the fact that the trumpets were resting a lot. And but the demos were, I mean, we all have the gear, right? We've all got the libraries, the different sample libraries, and they do sound, the demos sound really good. The stuff that you cannot, I mean, not cannot, but why would you spend hours tweaking a cello solo when you're going to have the principal cellist of the Latvia symphony? I mean, why would you spend hours tweaking the velocity of that? But it sounded decent, and to him it sounded great. So it wasn't really like, why do we need it? I think he just got really, really comfortable with the sound of the samples. So then he was a little bit fearful of like, what's it going to be? So he steps onto the stage the first day. And I really wanted the old Hollywood experience, although it's not practical by any means to record everybody at once, but I wanted to have the full orchestra there. It's a very old, wonderful sounding stage, but we had everyone there at once. And then on certain cues, we literally had them sit. It's like, okay, this pass just woodwinds, just so we would have that separation if the the mics. Often we use the stereo sound and just enhanced a little bit with the local mics, but he was very, very, very excited, and I think as we got more and more into it, he just like we had a separate little booth for them, just like a separate room with monitors, because the team didn't want to be like breathing over my shoulder, or Larry's shoulder, or Mark, my husband, we recorded actually. We actually recorded straight into DP, which is interesting, which a lot of people don't know. We had Pro Tools running also at the session, but we work a lot in DP, so we just wanted to record also straight into DP. We had to check on things like all the technical requirements, because it's not one of those, the Eastern European kind of as wonderful as some of the kind of factory back and forth, log in and watch what's going on in another country. They record symphonies and beautiful classical music and jazz recordings, and they've done some films, but I was worried about like all the sync stuff, and I hadn't thought of things about like tuning the piano. It's like, I get a call like, are we tuning at, A440 or are we, and it's like the musicians were like, because it's like, oh my God, yes, because I have a couple of these synth things and I don't have time to reprint everything. It's like, I hadn't even thought of those kind of details, but it all actually worked out. It worked out great in the end. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And having Larry along, not just the fact that I called Larry up and said, Larry, I really, how I like to make my choices as far as who's playing what, but I can't, there's just no way I'm going to be able to do this score prep. I'm not going to have time. And Larry was because of our great friendship, Larry was willing to take this on for more than a sandwich, but I mean, it was a very heartfelt gift for him to work for me, to have Larry working on this too, and be there to just be that incredible safety net. And when that there are no wrong notes in the parts, there are no wrong notes in the score, everything's been proofed and double proofed and triple proofed, and there's no questions about articulations. It's just a matter of standing up there and enjoying that process.
Yeah, Larry is a treasure. Absolutely. So talented. You guys are quite a team. Amazing team. And Mark too. Oh my gosh. Lolita's husband and partner, Mark Matson, is just such a talented engineer and composer, and such amazing. The talent in this family is I love that you went there rather than taking a meeting on Zoom. I think that's such a valuable lesson. I think a lot of women, because of commitments for family or all, or for just thinking, for ease, that taking a meeting over a phone or, not traveling is better. And I really think, that is just such an important point. If you can go and meet face to face with somebody, that is so important. And I wanted to ask you, because I feel like when you were saying that the director was not really responding to the kind of typical Americana kind of way that many Americans approach so many war films, I felt like your score was so unusual and unexpected, in that there was a lot of playing against the action, a lot of tension, but this magicalness in the tension as well. The way that you approached the harmonic structure of what you were doing was creating this tension, but with this magicalness. And I felt that there was everybody needs to see this film. It is so good. But the cinematography also had this kind of I don't know, like surrealness about it as well. Could you speak to just how you decided, how you decided which direction to go on some of those battle scenes, and some of the scenes that most people would create some sort of a beat and some sort of a rhythm, and yet you did the sweeping tension? It's really wonderful.
Well, it's all in the spotting, isn't it? It's all in the spotting and where you decide to start music and why and what. And the point of view of the film is very much through our main character, Arturs, who is 15 when he witnesses his mother get shot. And the Germans and the Russians and the Germans and the Russians, and these Latvian people just want to be left alone on their land and live and let live, but they are forced into defending their their home, their people, their country, and but they are often fighting with other larger countries who say, you will fight with us, you will be part of our army. And so this leads up to the point where they actually break off and say, we want to have our own country. So this is the period right before Latvia officially became its own official nation, even though the people have been there since, 1200, I mean, way back when. I mean, this is like, we're talking Viking territory. We're talking Latvian is language comes from Sanskrit. I mean, it's an old country with folk songs and traditions that date back forever. But I think that the just going back to the spotting, it's understanding what's the purpose of the music. I mean, the Christmas battle is 6 minutes. There's no music until the point where Arthur spots one of his friends. He spots the blood from one of his friends, and there's all this racket going around. So it's really just a moment of like finally giving the audience some relief, because the battles are shot in such a way. When we're in war, when we see a war film, we see from like drone shots and from above, and it looks horrifying, but it kind of looks exciting too, with things blowing up and you see it from above this is all through the eyes of this kid, whether it's over his shoulder or just watching him experience this thing. And he's fighting for hours on end, and he wakes up, he falls asleep in the snow. He doesn't even know, are we winning, or which direction am I supposed to be going in? There's this confusion, same thing in the fog. So it was really more about playing his inner emotion, not adding to, drum battle, snare drums and grandkasses and dum, 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 heavy action drum beats and stuff, which I've done plenty of. Trust me, in animation, I've done a ton for my superhero stuff. But so I was really happy about that,
That was one of the scenes I was going to ask you about. So I'm glad you talked about it, because when I saw that scene with no music in it and this long battle scene, I think, as you said, it was 6 minutes long with not a lick of music. And then when it came in, it was so powerful. And it reminded me of the Tom Hanks film Castaway, where he was on the island for so long and there was no music. And then when he finally got off the island, that's when the music came in. And I felt like it had that kind of power when your music came in. It really took my breath away, because I was realizing that there was no music, and that was drawing me in even further. And then that just played the emotion,
It's crazy because there is, I mean, technically there's 68 minutes of my original score in this film, and then there's just a little bit of source. But it's, the moments when there isn't music, it's like that, but it's so much more important where, I mean, I have a few scenes. I have a scene or two if you want me to share anything.
That was my next thing. I was going to ask you if you could please share a couple of scenes.
Well, I'll share a scene that just visually, what to me is still represents the dream that I had when I watched Out of Africa, or one of those kinds of films. When I saw the picture, it's like, oh my God, I get to do this. I get to do this. So let me bring that up. Do you guys see it? Do you see a black screen? Yes? Okay.
I do.
Okay. So that's,
beautiful.
thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
just so beautiful. Do you want to talk at all about, I wonder, I wondered as I was watching this, since this is such a deep part of you, I felt like there was an emotion that was pulled out just because also this is your country's story. Did that play into it at all? Just seeing kind of the history of your country and you being able to basically chronicle it in music?
Well, my direct history is from World War II because my parents were teenagers when they left. My parents got married. My mom was, they left Latvia. My mom was 19. My dad was 17 and a half. And they basically were sent away by their parents saying, you have to leave because, the Soviets are, the Russians are going to take over. And there was fear for their lives. And they kind of were holed up in Germany for a while, thinking that they would return once the war was over. But I mean, literally, my grandfather put my mother in a car with some business people that were driving out of Latvia. And my grandfather had been sent to Siberia for a while. He was able to return, but any intelligent, I mean, I hate to say that word, intelligent people, but people of power and of note were a threat to the government and what was about to be a very dark time. So anyway, so that emotion of just thinking, I mean, my parents were not directly, their lives weren't threatened at that moment. They didn't have to bury their friend, but their love story. I mean, they kind of got married because they looked at each other. When they were separated for a while during the war, and they looked at each other at this displaced persons camp and this small little town in Germany. It's like, well, if we should get married because how will we find each other? We have to stay together. So that kind of love story. I'm sorry.
So they were around the same age as Arthur and, right? I mean,
The thing is that Latvia is such a small country. I mean, there's so much war going on now in the world. And I think we all have to be very aware of the fact that we cannot be blind to the fact that war can be in our own country. We can lose our liberties and our freedoms. So we have to be involved. And if you're a small country trying to survive, there's no choice but to be involved and to be aware and to be mindful of that. And not to take that for granted, and not to take for granted those kinds of the freedoms that we all come to know. And so I think that during the First World War, again, it's like these countries were being trampled over by the big guns, literally. And so Latvia lost almost half of its population during World War I. So it was, the fact that they were able to then declare independence. And from 1918, November 18th, 1918, when Latvia became officially an independent nation, it was a flourishing time for the country. Artists and everybody kind of came out of hiding in a way because they'd been oppressed for so long. And it was just this beautiful place to celebrate and make the country flourish. And so I think that the fact that I grew up during an era where Latvia was part of the Soviet Union, we celebrated the music. We felt very much like we had to fight for my parents' homeland, for the survival kind of out. We were like, even though I was born here, I felt like I was like an exile, and I had to preserve the folk songs and the music. And so it was very much a part of the culture for me growing up. I go to Dunaway Elementary School in Portland, Oregon, and I do my stuff with my American friends. But then on the weekends, I attend Latvian school on Sundays. I was involved in. I actually folk danced. Crazy as that sounds, I was in the folk dance group, in the choir. I would write original compositions for the vocal groups and participate. So it was like like an extracurricular life. So these two worlds came together during this time for this film, because I feel like I was able to bring my experience to it. So
Well, I'd love to show one more clip if we could, just because I think many participants on the Zoom may not have seen it. And I think a picture's worth 1,000 words. So if we could show one more, that
Yes.
would be great.
Let me show something very contrasting. This is, you know, this is kind of, you'll hear the war aspect of it. And before I play this, there's some, you might be able to make out some of the solos. There's a lot of stuff going on, intricate music going on in this. And this particular scene, I think this was like the 6th version of what I was doing. So I had night and day different kind of cues. And for a different time, I would share, you know, share what I originally wrote. And this is what we finally approved of. So hang on, let me launch this. Hang on. And where's my Zoom? There's my Zoom. Share screen. Is this the one? Hang on. Let me just see real quick if this is the right one. 1 second. Yep, okay. You see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Merlin! Merlin!
So powerful. So beautiful and so powerful. I know that we need to get into questions pretty soon, but there's a couple of things I really wanted to talk to you about still. First of all, I might just not know this, but I don't know of any other women that have scored a war movie of this scope. And I feel like the feminine perspective, it's still so powerful and so bold, but it does bring something else to it that I've really not heard in another war movie. So I wanted to talk to you because you are on the Oscar shortlist. You're the only woman on the Oscar shortlist this year, which is an incredible feat. And huge congratulations for that. And I just, I wanted to talk to you just about how you feel. You've done so much to elevate the music of women through your presidency and through, creating this group. How do you feel we could go forward in the future to bring more women, into the possibility of winning and being considered for awards like the Oscars or the Emmys, or can you speak to that? I know you've been really involved in mentorship and elevation of women's music. So if you could speak to that, that would be great.
Thank you, Starr. I think awards are wonderful and they make us feel good and all that. But awards are also the big public perception of what's going on in the world and what validates certain artists because they've won some sort of an award. I think as artists internally, we know that that's not the most important thing, but it is important to be part of the game. So I'll say with Blizzard of Souls from day one, knowing what I know about this business and having worked with, I am represented by White Bear PR. But I, for years, thought I thought, why wouldn't anyone have a publicist? That's so pretentious. Why would you have a publicist? Like, if you do something of note, people should just know magically, they should just know magically. Things do not happen that way. It's very rare that something happens. I think maybe if you are an athlete and you are the fastest runner in the world, maybe you don't need a publicist to win the gold medal, but you probably need a publicist to get the endorsements and all that stuff. But I'm just saying with film music as something that is such a subjective kind of thing, if you're working on something that you feel has musical, like beyond musical merit, but it is like something that is really part of your essence, spend the time to get it out there, spend resources, have people help you get the thing out so we can all celebrate it and we can push each other forward and into the light. I cannot tell you how wonderful it feels, not just to have you celebrate me and to have, Laura Cartman and, my other contemporaries and people that have been in this business for a while to raise me up, but to get calls from or emails from very high profile composers. And it's not we didn't know you could do this, but it was like, wow, hooray, you've got this. So we have to raise each other up and you have to be an active participant in your own destiny. For religious people that believe that God will give them everything, God is very busy. God has a lot of things to take care of. So we have also been given the free will to help each other out. And I think that's something that we forget and we get very timid. And I say we as women, of course, everybody is different. There are some badass women in this Zoom that have just like knocked it out of the ballpark with their incredible work and have just knocked down doors and not been afraid to do it. If your personality is shy, and trust me, I am shy. I'm the kid that didn't speak English in first grade. I'm the person that at a cocktail party, I want to get out of there as soon as I can because I do not like cocktail parties. But I go because I have I have to meet these people and I have to basically show them my soul and my personality and be okay with who I am and opening myself up to letting other people get to know me and not feel like I have to just check off all these boxes. Okay, when I'm good enough, when I am thin enough, when I have my best samples, when I have the big studio film, then I'll be ready and here I go. It's like these things happen. You don't know when they're going to happen, but they're not going to happen if you are your own worst obstacle. We do not all have to be the same. We cannot all be, the shiny, slick, super put together person that just looks amazing on the podium, not too feminine, not too masculine, all these things that we're supposed to be. Forget all that. Be who you are and let other people see your light, and you can actually then be a light for other people too. And don't be afraid to raise other people up, because even though at times it feels like, well, I don't know if it's smart to do that because we're actually competitors, that's just nonsense. Shirley Walker was my hero, and she was so gracious in her generosity of her talent and her time, her mentorship, and also her tough as nails, kind of mentoring that she did of me, which was, I think, why I'm very much why I am who I am as far as in this business. You have to be better. You have to know what you're doing. You can leave nothing to apologize for. And then if you don't get it, then at least you say, I gave it my all. So that's kind of like my motivational speech for the day. But it's, on a practical level, enter everything, enter it, get in the habit, just make it part of your checklist. You got to print your stems. When you're done printing your stems, figure out which cues are your best cues. Make sure you have proper mixes of those cues to later. If you have a 5-second sneak in or something, do an edit so that the cue actually starts, so people aren't going to fast forward or skip that great cue because you've putzed around for 10 seconds as you snuck in under dialogue. Get all that material ready every time you work on a project. Get your assets ready. Make sure you have a photographer there. I mean, back in the old days, I have like one picture of me and Michael Kamen that I was there like all the time. I have no pictures of like, oh, Eric Clapton, can we get a selfie? We're working on Lethal Weapon. Can I get a selfie? There was none of that. So now it's like you can collect assets. You can be larger than life, even if you're not even ready, but then at least you have it. So I don't know. That's a lot to unpack right there.
One thing that you said when we were speaking last night, talking about not being defined by what you're most known for. Sometimes I feel like we all, work in whatever mediums we are in, but we may see ourselves in a different way. And I loved, I don't know if you could just speak to that, because I thought that was really valuable, what we were speaking about last night, because I know you've worked a lot in animation, and this is very, very different from what you are known for mostly. And so, but yet you've always had that in there. You've just been now given the chance to have the palette to be able to express yourself in that way.
Yeah, it's I never thought I would be primarily known as an animation composer. I've always had something going on parallel to that job. That's not something that is just handed to me. I mean, Michael McQuiston and Christopher Carter and I, we've carved out a niche, but we work so hard to keep that going. I can't even tell you. It's a lot of work. But it's the shows that we've been associated with they're very much story driven. And even though people say animation, I think animation, what was thought of as like, the Carl Stalling approach, which is so exciting. I mean, that's completely different than what I've been working on all these years. But it was still always about the story, about raising the project up, working with the producer, getting the tone right. Those skills of whatever project you're working on can totally help in the other areas that you're interested in. But yeah, to not lose sight of whatever it is, that it's that feeling of like, if only I had this project that I could show the world what is really in my essence and in my being. And that is a wonderful luxury and a wonderful thing to look for as hopefully you can make your career and earn your living doing that, but it's not always the case. So to not lose sight of the fact that you need to still, if you want that part of your life, you need to nurture the thing that is most you. You need to nurture that. It needs to be, you brush your teeth in the morning, you have to eat something, you have some exercise, you have love in your life, but you need to nurture the part that is the true essence of who you are. And if those roads can join together and meet up, and you actually have a project like for me this film was, then it's a wonderful thing. But it's a special thing, And I don't believe that the Hans Zimmers of the world, every single project is that for them either. I mean, I think of when I mention Hans, because I think he's probably, as far as a business person and a composer, he is actually a brilliant composer. He's gone off and done so many things for other people and built this huge empire. But I listened back to Driving Miss Daisy or some of those scores, and it's like, oh my God, he is amazingly brilliant. And I think that there are times where even the Hans Zimmers of the world, also need to want to look at their soul and say, am I writing what is really the essence of me, or am I just keeping the machine going? And on many levels, we all have to keep our machine going if we want to earn a living, but we can't lose sight of the essence of who we are. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, this isn't a rehearsal. I don't know if we come back as, oh, my next life, then I'll be the successful composer. Who knows what's after this? Maybe we're just light. We're a bunch of wonderful energy and we all intersect and we don't have to worry about these things. But so that's that.
Well, we have just a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes for questions, or if anybody would like to have a question for Lolita or talk about anything. Maria?
Well, first of all, I kind of have a question about the score, but then everything that you just said, I'm like, boom, 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 like, there's so many thoughts. I'm so thankful to be able to be here today and to listen to you both. Like, this is an amazing conversation. And I look up to you both. I mean, this is just amazing. And congratulations on this amazing movie and score that you just made. It's just amazing. And the question that I was regarding the score that I had is, since you were recording in Latvia, right? So you recorded the musicians there. Were you conducting part of the music, some of the music? Was Amy Anderson conducting something, or did you have somebody from Latvia?
Oh, this is a good question. Well, the thing is, Amy Anderson, we went to Latvia later for her project. This was later. She heard the score and she was pricing out different orchestras, and she just said, well, Lolita, I just think Blizzard of Soul, I think it sounds amazing. Let's go to Latvia. So that was, that came after the fact. I conducted all the orchestra stuff, and you can listen online to some of the choral music. We don't have time to listen to it now, but the choral, the Māris Sirmais, who is the conductor of State Choir Latvia, he conducted the choir. So we recorded the orchestra first. I think it was 4 or 5 days, and then the following week we recorded the choir. And in recording in Latvia, we I worked closely with the contractor, and we picked days when the Latvian National Symphony wasn't playing a concert, or when there wasn't a big opera festival in another country, to get the best possible musicians. That's why we actually had a time in between the choir and the orchestra. But yes, I conducted. I'm a decent conductor. I'm not a great conductor. I've written some classical concert works where I'm always happy when a legitimate conductor conducts it, but I get so involved and I move around and I do things that I know that Lucas Richmond would say, stop, lower your shoulders, your beat's too high, I point at people sometimes, and it's like I ignore one section if I'm immersed in the chili or whatever. But I do it because it's so fun. And if I know that I have Mark in the booth recording and listening, and Larry following score, making sure that I didn't miss something, then I'm good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I was wondering, like, isn't it just an amazing feeling when you get to that point of recording the music? It's like making it, bring it up to life, and it's just just such a pleasure when you do it yourself, right?
It's so fun. I mean, I would have liked to have had maybe another day, and then I would have picked 2 or 3 cues to do free time. I had streamers for everything, but I did have Click, and I was kind of chicken. I knew that the choir had to lay something on top, and plus I had, there are a few things in the digging to see, to find his brother scene. There's a dunk 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 dunk. I actually was knocking the dunk 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 earlier. There is a synth thing going on there, so I had to make sure everything was right, So anyway.
So Lolita, Emma had a question of how long did it take you to write the music from start to finish? What was your time frame?
I had a pretty tight time frame. I did not write a bunch before. I had a few themes. And so we spotted in mid-March and we recorded at the end of July. Right? I think it was Larry. Was it the end of July? Larry remembers. Yes. And I had a festival that I did in between there where I flew to Toronto to conduct and have one of my works performed. And actually a very, very quick, interesting rewrite story. So I wrote the final prayer, which is all a cappella with the choir. I wrote it and I was almost ready to like send it off and like to finalize it. And then I was in Toronto and the choir was performing and I heard them sing and it was like, oh my gosh, I don't like what I've written. I want to write something. I'm more inspired by what I hear. So I wrote something way too complicated. I thought too complicated. It was a very smart, cool sounding, smart choir music, but I went back and wrote something very, very pure, not easy to sing, but very pure and simple after hearing them. So.
Did you rewrite that after the first piece had already been approved, and then you just said?
No, it's actually the last piece. It's the first piece over the credits, and it's a prayer that the text is taken from the actual novel. And it was something I never previewed. It was just, I told the director, there's no way I'm going to preview this with, me double tracking myself or using just, Hollywood choirs trying to be singing the syllables correctly, or me sounding like ABBA or something like vocals. So I said, you just trust me, and if you don't like it, we'll do something else. So yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, ABBA, rock on. Is there anybody else that would have a question? I can only see one page, so let's see. I don't see anybody. Lolita, I had a question for you about the folk music, because you were talking about how you were so immersed in the folk music, because of your culture and your parents speaking and you speaking as your first language. Did you have a hand in picking the folk music? There was one in particular where the soldiers are marching and they're singing kind of towards the beginning of the film. And there was a couple of instances, and I thought, I wonder if Lolita had a hand in this or did this. Was this yours? Or
no, that was actually the song. They march and they sing it in a very march-like fashion, but it is just a song, a public domain song that was very popular at that time, and I didn't have a hand in that. No, I did bring. That's the only piece of public domain music, Latvian like folk kind of music that I brought into the score, where I just revisited the theme, that melody, after a particular battle, because they went into the battle singing they sing this, and then in the score there's a sadness, and I can't remember if it's oboe and there's piano too, just playing it very softly, that melody. So that was for the most part, that kind of thing is a little too on the nose for me, but in that one spot, it seemed to really work, and they really liked it. I didn't want to like, oh yeah, oh ha ha ha, there's the theme from that was playing there. That was too on the nose, but in this one instance, it actually, I think it worked. So
that's so cool. Well, is there anyone else that has a very quick question, because we're almost out of time? Just if you do, unmute yourself, because I can't see everyone. Well, Allie did. Oh no, sorry, I thought you did. I just wanted to make sure that that everyone knows that this score is on Spotify if you want to listen to it, and probably Apple Music too, Lolita, kind of all
everywhere.
And where can people see the film if they want to rent it or stream?
Well, there's a company called Film Movement, and it is they are partnered with a lot of the Lamley kind of theaters, and so you can rent it. That way you support independent cinema and you support the theater and the film. I think SCL members will be getting a link. I think, to watch the film. So if you're that will be coming your way pretty soon in one of those for your consideration emails. But yes, film movement. It's interesting because in Latvia it broke all box office records, and it was kind of a surreal alternate universe experience to go for the premiere and stand in the big like 22 cinema multiplex and have like 20 cinemas be this film, and then there was Joker in one of them, and it's like, yes, Hilda and I are in one cinema, multiplex cinema, and it was really fun. So yeah.
Well, thank everybody so much for being here, and thanks to Thomas and Chandler for setting it up, and White Bear and Lolita. Just so proud of you, and wishing you so much luck with all that you're doing, and with all all the awards, and also with just having your next project come to you in such a beautiful way too. I hope that they just keep coming like this, because this is definitely definitely your calling.
Thank you everyone. It's been really fun.
Thank you everyone for being here.
Bye everyone.
Bye.